Got a nice crowd here this morning. Yeah, design thinking. What I'm probably not going to be covering here today is actual design. So this is really the fundamental building blocks before you even go into Figma, before you start thinking about design. Really, that's what this is. It's about the process of building your product out. So, a little bit about my background. For the first 25 years, I focused on marketing, ending up being the chief marketing officer for a company called Lehman Brothers. You probably don't even know who that is, but if you know Goldman Sachs, this was the company right below it. So we had 30,000 employees worldwide and focused on that until 2008 when it went bankrupt, the largest bankruptcy in the world, $1 trillion. At that point, I pivoted to technology. So really for the last 17 years, I focused on startups, product development. So I've started, I think, 7 startups now, building point of sale systems, personal financial apps. My last company I worked at was a company called the Blackstone Group, small little company. They manage some small portfolio companies, I think to the tune of trillions of dollars. After that, a friend of mine called and said, hey, can I have a little bit of help with some software? And I started working with him. We came up with a little bit of an idea, which I'll get into later, and I wound up here at Care Predictor. I've been working with a team of people here for about 3 years now. We're about to get a seed round and a Series A round sometime in December. So yeah, 17 years, lots of valley of despair when you're doing startups. There's high highs and low lows, and so, but it's an exciting thing. I wouldn't want to do anything else. One thing I also do is extreme sports. That's my bike packing bike. I do bike packing races, 200, 300, 400 miles. I do mountaineering with my son and some Army Rangers. I've kind of morphed into this hobby because running a startup and building startups is very stressful. You're working 7 days a week. You wake up thinking about it, you go to bed thinking about it, so you need some sort of outlet for, clearing your head. So I highly recommend, getting a hobby. Design is not just how it looks, design is how it works. There's been lots of ideas out there that people think, oh, this is going to be great. I remember when the iPhone first came out, there was a lot of people competing for products in the same sphere. We had Microsoft that came out with a product similar to the iPhone, and it had all these features in it. It's like Bill Gates thought, oh, this will be great. This will kill the iPhone. Well, that did not happen because Steve Jobs focused on the user experience and simplicity. They had the App Store, etc., versus a bunch of people sitting in a room going, how many features can we pack into a product? So we're going to talk about this process. With my last company, I had the pleasure of working with a design firm in San Francisco called Clay Global. These are some of their clients, and I was also one of their clients. I think these companies and others, successful companies, again, approach design, their app, their website, their subscription service, by really focusing on users and just reducing the friction and giving the user a solid experience and product market fit. Those are things that really make a difference. And so learned a lot working with them. And before we get started, I'm going to do sort of a pre-flight check here with respect to what you need to think about before you start design thinking. So looking at your competitors, again, part of your product is your brand. So you probably have some name of the company, but when you're going into Figma, you want to give it a color palette. These things matter. So you figured this out, and now you've got your personas figured out. I think that's one of the things you've done or are doing. So who is your target customer? You really want to understand who are the individuals you're selling the product to. Is it teenagers, retired folks? Is it millennials? Is it, outdoors people? And really interview these people and really find out what it is that's driving them emotionally, what are their needs, and really write up detailed descriptions of the 3 or 4 personas that you want this product to focus on. Very important, again, can you explain your product in a few words, and do people love it? So, my company, Care Predictor, we keep patients in care longer. That took a year and a half to develop. We struggled with, what our product does. Care Predictor is a software that, it's an assessment software. So we work with therapists, mental health therapists. We give them an assessment, and it basically will predict how well they are at therapy and how they engage with clients. And we have a lot of other things that the software does, but this is number one. But when we were trying to explain this at a conference to a VC, we were always stumbling. Somebody would come to the trade show booth, what do you do? Oh, well, we do this, we do an assessment, and we help people, patients stay in care longer. It's really important that you nail this before you start designing as well. So, co-founders, okay? I can't tell you how many times I've been at VC lectures, and they're like, we don't fund individual founders. It's very rare, because they want a team that has its own strengths individually. So typically you've got this evangelical, vision-driven person who's going to be up there on stage, that's going to be talking about the product and just pushing it. Then you have the salesperson or marketing, and then you have the tech person. So generally they're looking for 2 to 3 people. So I know you guys break into groups. Maybe naturally you find out who's the person leading, who's going to be the tech. So very important. If you're ever raising capital, they want a team, and they hire the team. They don't usually, they know the product is going to be morphing and changing, but they need a team that is going to be coachable. They get together, they work together well, so it's super important. So, and again, before we even get into design thinking, something that you always have to start with is FTUX, which is first time user experience. So when you're building software, you can have beautiful software, but if you're asking people to fill out tons of forms and maybe reply to a link, add too much information, you're going to get fewer people that are going to follow through on the process. So this right here is really the first place you start. This company nailed it. Duolingo, if any of you have ever used it, they don't even ask you for your name, nothing. They basically let you get started, pick your language, how well do you know it, and then you start. So there's zero friction to getting inside that particular piece of software. So super important to think about that first time user experience, not just the login and creating your identity, but when people first land on your app or your web page, etc., is to think about that first time user experience. Are you asking people for too much? What's that relationship that you have with the user at that early point? So it depends. If you're building a complex financial app, you could probably ask more information. But you have to think about what's the minimum amount of information you're asking for before the user gets into your application. And then I just want to talk briefly about user interface. So when you're designing, whether it's a web app, an app, so to the left here is a point of sale system that a lot of restaurants use. Looks pretty archaic. If you've ever been at a restaurant ordering and you see somebody hitting, like if you say, yes, I want a Pepsi, and they'll hit like 5 keys, Well, that's really inefficient, a bad user experience. The point of sale system on the far right there, that's the one I developed. So much more elegant, seamless, no friction, no training needed. This POS, when you hire a new person, there's training required, and it usually takes them a month to learn how to use it efficiently. The way I was selling that particular point of sale, at one store, I walked in Phoenix, and it was a small deli. I was selling to small businesses, and the guy's daughter was there, and I said, hey, you know, come over here. I said, I want you to ring up something. And she picked up the iPad and just started ringing up an order. No training, etc. That is the way software should work. You should not have to rely on training, etc. If you do your job as a designer, your user interface, the part where you're interacting with it, should be very seamless and elegant. And now we're going into the user experience. So what is the user experience? That's, you know, once you're in there, you've got your user interface. That's where you're interacting with the software. The buttons are nice. It's easy to see what you need to do. The experience is everything else. It's just how do you navigate the software. If I'm here at Airbnb, you know, I want to find a house to stay in, and so here they're going to quickly show you, you know, guest favorites, and it just is a very elegant experience overall. So interface, that piece where you're interacting with the individual software, that needs to be simple, simple, simple. Always be cutting and deleting. If you don't need a button there that, you know, or some icon, just remove it. I think your true north should always be Apple. That point of sale system that I designed, I hired an Apple designer as a freelance person. It was worth every dollar, and it makes a huge difference in terms of just connecting with the user. So, secret sauce behind apps you can't stop using. So, you know, people, I think, take it for granted. There's limited space on your phone for an app, so it has to be something people engage with. If you're building a website, a subscription service, you still need something that's exciting about it, and the reason why they want to engage with it. So this is really going to come down to, it isn't, you know, the coding, etc. It's really understanding the people that are using your software. It's really understanding what their problem is deeply and then solving it. So to the left here is a consumer app that I developed in my last company. It allowed people to invest, like an Acorns, which is right down the street here. But this was not just another Me Too. We did a lot of deep research into why aren't people, younger people, investing? And well, it came down to they wanted to be able to set goals. So here they could just come into the software and set a goal. I want to summer vacation. I want to buy a car. I want to save up for a trip. They're not thinking about retirement. So this little change, based on talking to users and really understanding what was at the crux of their problem, was how this feature got developed, and, you know, became a very large piece of the app. So when we're now starting out, we've done our pre-flight check. We've got our, you know, brand colors, and, you know, we understand what UI UX is. We really, you know, want to follow this pattern. And this is not just a one and done. So once you build your software or your feature, you're going to continuously come through this loop. So it's empathize with the user, which is probably the #1 thing. Define the problem, ideate, prototype, and then the brutal reality of testing. So empathy. You really need to get out of the bubble, get out of the room, and really interact with the end user, with your customer. This is probably the number one focus of, I think, anyone building a product. So you are not the user. I have my CEO who annoys me all the time. He walks into my office and he's like, we should have this feature. I'm like, you're 62 years old. No, you're not the end user, and you're a CEO. And so people are always going to be coming up with ideas. You need to ground it in your personas. The personas should be taped up on your wall. If somebody comes up with a feature, you really need to ask yourself hard questions. You know, does this add to the software? Feature requests should come from users, not people in the office. Although ideas can come from anywhere, that's probably the number one, I think, on this slide, thing to look out for. So watch and listen. So what I mean here is, you know, when you're talking to users, don't kind of lead the witness. So would you use this? Tell me about the last time you struggled with this problem. You need to show them a comp or a mock-up, and just without saying anything, saying, does this look like it solves your problem? So you can't, you know, if you're doing it over the phone virtually, you say, okay, go to the upper left-hand corner and click on that. Oh, and then click here. No, you need to just step back and watch and listen how people are interacting with your product. So be careful about leading that user. And then ask why. So if a person, you're showing them some sort of prototype or just an idea, you know, it's really asking them, why is that a problem? Like if you're trying to book a flight on Expedia, you should say, why is it a problem for you? There's too many options. Okay, why is that a problem? And you just keep digging into that. Well, can I limit the number of airlines that show up? Can I do this? And you start digging more, and then it's like, it's just frustrating because I can't, you know, see what I really need to see quick enough. So it's just, you got to constantly be asking, why is it a problem? So again, we're going to stay on empathy for a while here. So what separates a good app from a bad app? A lot of people, when we're talking about the observed actions and stated needs, so when we're talking about building that software product, the observations you're doing, so this is just really the super high level of companies that, you know, most people are like, well, we just need to do this product because it solves this small problem. Because people, you know, maybe it's here's a good example. You've got, before Uber, you had a taxi service. The problem was maybe getting a hold of the taxi service. The app would be, okay, people have a hard time getting a cab. Okay, we'll develop an app that lets them call the cab from a directory list. That may be the quick observed problem, but the stated needs is really, I want to get there, you know, safely, in more comfort, more flexibility, and you dig down to deeper unspoken emotions is, I don't want to take the cab. I want to, you know, have something that shows up much faster, a minute or two, and get to my location. And you dig down for more context. I don't want to have to go and call them and wait long. I want to have it show up. And then core motivations. I want it to be cheap and fast. So you're always digging deeper, because the top part of that iceberg is just their initial kind of high-level needs, wants, and desires. The customer that you're talking to, they're never going to tell you their deep emotional needs of why they want something. You've really got to dig down into it. And this is really one of the hardest parts of doing a product. When we look at my own product, Care Predictor, when we first launched it, it was actually a first product. It was virtual therapy. And the CEO who founded it, we were doing virtual therapy all over the country. We had 30 therapists. He kept adding features, and then people weren't showing up to therapy. They were dropping it, not showing. And that gets very expensive because you're paying that therapist, and if somebody doesn't show up, that's a problem, because I can't slot somebody else in there. So I'm losing that money, then it gets very expensive fast. So what we discovered the problem was, if we would have done design thinking, well, I wasn't there, but when I did get there, I did the design thinking part, and I discovered, well, these therapists just were not that great. So people were not connecting with them. People were just dropping out. And so we just started thinking, how can we develop something that screens therapists better? It can't just be a survey. So we hired a neuroscientist to dig into what is it that we can do to make the experience better for clients and therapists. And we came up with some standardized assessments. And so now we would give these assessments to 230 question assessments to therapists, get back that data through regression analysis and other statistics. We figured out, okay, when people score low on this, they're not good therapists. When they score high, they're great therapists. So by digging deeper into the real root of the problem, we figured out what was really a game-changing piece of technology in the world. So, fast forward 2.5 years later, and I'm demoing to the CEO and founder of BetterHelp and other big virtual companies and implementing my software with them. So I pivoted, I saw something, I listened to the users, and that's where we're at today. So again, what tools do you have for focusing on empathy? So user interviews. Again, you're diving into the motivations and attitudes of the user. So you've got to be out there and then really talking to people. Contextual observation. So when I rolled out the point of sale system in Phoenix, I was out there at the stores, I was at the mom and pop stores, I'd stand there and I'd watch the people using the software. Very important, keep your mouth shut, don't say anything, and see them fumble and stumble, and that's contextual observation. You can't just think about it, you've got to see it in real life. And then the other piece, journey mapping. So very important, I think even before you start designing, is you start here, the customer's first experience, and then every single touch point after that. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be a graph, but it's just, you need to make sure you're covering every aspect of the customer journey. So very important to map out, is it, the person walks into the store, they click on something, the next thing. So very important. Okay, so you've done all of this homework. You've got a lot of detail. So now what we want to do is sort of take all that chaos, and it's probably going to be a whiteboard like this with a lot of Post-it notes on it, and you've got to start asking yourself, some hard questions. So I think a starting point is, if you say I'm building an app to do a homework reminder app, you've kind of already come up with a solution, like, oh, we're building an app that reminds kids to do homework. Well, that's not really, I think, a great way to approach it. I think a better way of saying it is, how might we help students stop putting things off until the last minute? And so it's a different way of positioning it, and you're now focusing on the emotions, because it's stressful, it's boredom, pressure, it's overwhelming. You're really focusing on the user pain. So the user pain is all of these things, and it's like, what can you do to solve those pains? So as opposed to saying, we're building a homework reminder app, and then you start getting Post-it notes and you say, oh, it's going to have an alarm, it's going to have a calendar, it's going to have a timeline, it's going to have a push notification, all these things. That's still not getting to the root of the individual user's problem, which is, my son was guilty of this. They both went to uni high, and where my daughter would study till 3 in the morning and turn things in early. My son would wait to the last minute, not turn things in. So it was just really boredom and stress. And that's where I think an app that would have focused on dealing with that emotional piece of it, and that's still rolled over to college, by the way. Both my kids are in college. Yeah, that's really the crux of it, is really focusing on the emotional part of the client experience. So, it's interesting. I was just reading, how many of you are, Discord? Use it? No? Discord is a communications app for multiplayer games. It started as software, gaming software, and they were building a game. Nobody was using it, and the one piece of it, they were running out of money. They had $6 million left. They had one piece that was working. It was a communication platform. When you're multiplayer gaming, everything was always lagging and slowing down when you tried to use Skype or something like that to communicate amongst people. And they just discovered, like, hey, our thing doesn't lag the communications, and they pivoted to this. So they then took their piece of their software that really resonated and then rolled that out and focused on that. That's now, I think 8 years later, it's about to become a $12 billion IPO. Same thing with Slack. Slack used to be, there were a bunch of people working on a game, and they were not focused on the emotions and really solving problems. But they did have a piece of software that they communicated with amongst themselves and the developers, and it solved for some of these emotional issues that these developers were having. Quick communications, just doing things faster, and that product pivoted from gaming to Slack, which you know today, which is acquired for billions of dollars. So, and now, spending a lot of time just coming up with one great idea is probably not a great way to also come up with a initial MVP or 1.0. If I'd highly recommend you come up with multiple different ideas for your application and for your software, and just throw everything up there, and then good ideas, bad ideas, and then bring it down into one sort of simpler, more elegant solution that then you put in front of other people. Don't keep it to your small group. Just come to get as many ideas as you can, and put those forward to other people. Getting your product in front of other people is just an immensely critical part of this. So you always have to be talking to your users. Even today, I'm still sitting in on demos. I'm still talking to clients on a regular basis and getting feedback. Where my product is today is 180 degrees different than where it was when we started. Just like every startup, you start with one thing and you're just quickly moving in a direction. As long as you're listening to your clients and your users and just digging deep, you're just going to constantly improve your product. But it isn't going to come from your team. It's going to come from deep listening to your customers, your users. There's definitely something, I can't stress enough, is just listening and talking to people. And again, you can't lead that user. You can't say, wouldn't it be great if it had this? You need to get deeper than that. And that's coming with the prototypes, showing it to people, and just getting that feedback. So just the more ideas, the better. The prototype. So very, very important part of, probably one of the most important. Again, there's a lot of important pieces and they all need to work together. But even today, when I come up with a feature or anything, I created just a Figma prototype. It's clickable. And you put that in front of users. And you have focus groups. You could do it inexpensively, email people, and try not to get the usual suspects, your friends and family. Get people that are going to tell you the hard, honest truth about what you're doing. And if you've done your homework, the prototype you're showing is something that is, you want to make sure it's solving a problem for them too. And so you need to, when you're showing this prototype, it's got to, achieve the end goal, which is adding value to the product and making it sticky. So, and it shouldn't be nice. It should be a very rough prototype. Don't spend your time going, this box doesn't look right, this color doesn't look right. It's really, get it out there fast. I think there's a couple of schools of thought. If you're Apple, everything goes out and it's perfect, but they've got endless budgets to do things the right way. Then you've got Google, who is always just pushing out just small iterative changes to their software and just listening to user feedback. I'm of the school of just get anything out there and iterate quickly. So get it out there and just get that feedback as fast as possible. And same with the prototype, it's just get something, don't sweat the small details, just see if this is the next feature that's going to make your software even more of a breakthrough. So here we are, we spent some time building your prototype. Now here comes the part where you're now testing it. This is where kind of the rubber hits the road. You're now showing this full experience, and you've got to, really just take a deep breath. You're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. You've spent hundreds of hours building this feature, and now you're going to let people try it. And it's again, watch, don't tell. Give users the prototype, and just be quiet. What do they do? What are they tapping on? Even to this day, I'm watching my salespeople do demos, and if I see them struggling to find a button, like to push something, I'm like, that's a problem. And when I watch people at trade shows using the software, and they're like, well, what do I do now? It's like, okay, that's a problem. So you don't say, oh yeah, you just hit this. No, it's got to be software that is intuitive, and you just, again, watch, don't tell. Ask, what are you expecting? If people are not seeing something, so if we were just coming up with something, we showed some reports in our software, and we thought people would be excited about it. And we started probing a little bit more like, well, what were you expecting? Well, I thought it would actually integrate in like this, and AI would tell me where my problems are. I don't need to see another report. So again, deep listening to the client, customer, gave us that feedback that was enough to now pivot our whole software, just based on a few conversations, to becoming more of an AI OS system. So you never know where these ideas are going to come from. That's why it's always important to keep talking to people. So one little conversation could have that aha moment for your software that's going to pivot you. So, and then iterate. So I can't stress enough that once a feature is built, you're still going to want to improve it every day, every week, every month. When your product gets more mature, you have people that manage that feature, manage that other feature, and so, but when you're still small, you're just always, you can't just rest on that. I look at my software where it was even 6 months ago, and it's radically different. I'm always trying to strip things out of it and make it more user-friendly. So, pitfalls. Falling in love with your first idea. I've seen people drive their companies to the ground, losing tens of millions of dollars, and that's because they fell in love with their idea and they don't listen to anyone. It's that visionary founder that doesn't listen to other people, and ultimately will crush the company. Don't ever skip user testing. That's it's just never a good idea. Designing for yourself, which is again going back to falling in love with your first idea. You are not the user. You always have to, when you're working with your designers, always look at the personas and really, again, don't focus on yourself, focus on your customer. Ignoring negative feedback. There's plenty of times when I'm like, that user's an idiot. I remember this happened another couple of months ago. The user said, how do you add users to the software? And I really went out of my way to make this, because I'm working with therapists and they're very stressed and they have high educations, masters, PhDs. I'm like, these users are idiots. And I caught myself going, okay, no, I'm the problem. I'm the one that didn't design for them. So I simply went and I said, I changed the button from users to add, view, users. Solve the whole problem. But I caught myself ignoring almost negative feedback. I get comments all the time, and I have to catch myself going, actually, they're the user, they're right, I need to listen. So, super important. And over-polishing too early, we kind of touched on that a little bit, but it doesn't need to be sexy, it just needs to solve the problem. I mean, if you look at early versions of any software, it's still clunky, it's not smooth, it's not elegant. So again, don't over-polish the software. So design thinking at work. Again, when I look at, Spotify, they're not just kind of hoping and thinking in a room what's going to work. They're really just doing continuous user research. I, for a software company, have more data scientists, mathematicians, and business intelligence people than I have developers, because I'm looking at user data. And so all of these assessments I'm doing, all of the EMR, which is electronic medical record systems data I have, I'm looking at that. They're looking at all of this information that you're collecting. And that's really why Spotify is doing well as it is. It's A/B testing. So if you have a feature that you're trying to develop, and maybe you're split on one version or another, you take the prototype and show it to two different people, or show it to other people. So you want to get more feedback. The more feedback, the better. I'd always say, always be testing. You have your standard product, always be testing a champion challenger. But yeah, it's really data-driven design. It's when you look at people when they're not clicking on something in the software, whether it's, again, a website or an app, it's comes down to research and design. Here's another simple example. When these people, Air Bed and Breakfast, that's when they started their company. When they were early on, they were having an issue. They were having sort of a low conversion rate, not a lot of revenue, and user engagement was very low. They were not using design thinking in the beginning. There were a couple of kids that rented their apartment out in San Francisco during a conference, and they had air mattresses they were renting for $80 a night, and they provided breakfast. So these were the bootstrapping entrepreneurs that everyone wants to be, and they had some success. But when they started rolling out their app, and they had a platform, and they just let people take pictures, they discovered they started going into the field and really rolling up their sleeves, and they spent months trying to put themselves in the user's shoes. And what they discovered is something so simple: photography. But the poor photography that these users at these Airbnbs were doing was so bad, it just didn't make the house look inviting, and was ultimately at the root cause of the issues. So after they applied design thinking, their conversion rate went up a lot. revenue skyrocketed, user engagement went from low to high, just from, again, putting yourself in the shoes of the user and digging in a little deeper. I did that with my own software. So we spent a year thinking about how do we, with our assessment, we assessed therapists, said, hey, you're weak in these areas, we now need to upskill them and make them better. So if you look at traditional learning management systems, if you've taken an online course, it probably looks similar like this. You have overview, you've got a talking head, in this course, expected outcomes. When we showed this to therapists, they're like, oh no, you can't tell me, I have a master's in psychology, or I have a PhD in psychology. You're gonna tell me what I need to do? Like, no, that was this, we had spent all this time in research, but then when we went in front of focus groups, they're like, oh, you're not gonna tell me. It was like a wall of, like, we're like, okay, this is a problem. So we put our thinking caps back on, and to my far left is what we came up with, which, from what I can tell, nobody's ever done this in learning. So we allow them to create their own user journey. So talking with them, we listen to their pain points, and as opposed to get upset and say, no, the user is wrong, we, through deep listening, came up with this right here, which is allowing people to, if they're going to work on empathy or patience, we give them a list of 7 or 8 categories, and then within the categories, they have these little micro practices. So now we're allowing them to construct their own course. So they can ignore things in here and say, I'm not interested in this, but I am interested in this. This is interesting. So this was a mechanism to engage the user to build their own course and then launch it. And it wasn't a video, it isn't a talking head or etc. It became a small email that gets emailed to them on Monday and says, this is the one little thing I want you to practice for the next 2 weeks. And there's a little check-in on Friday, but it puts a very practical turn on educating. It's sort of like if you're, if you're an athlete, it's like, hey, we're gonna get you better. I only want you to focus on eating a little better for breakfast this week, for the next 2 weeks, and then I'm gonna check in with you. Okay, now we're gonna focus on lunch, training, etc. So these are micro practices, and this has gone over incredibly well. When I demoed this to BetterHelp, they were like, when's this launching? I said, February 9th. Very stressful. Here's another example. So when I developed this point of sale, to the left, I was very proud of it. It's great. I was sitting down with the restaurant owner. I said, hey, here's the new hardware. And I had it printed out on the table. We were having dinner there. And then the server came up. This is probably 8 years ago? No, 9, 10 years ago. The server walks up, says, oh, that's cool, but what would really be helpful is if that could be held in my hand so I can walk around with it, and then when I'm ordering, like when customers sit down and order their cocktails, I can just type it in there and it goes straight to the bar. I don't have to take down a paper order and then walk back and then punch it into the point of sale. And that pivoted into a mobile point of sale, so people could walk around with it and then print out orders to the bar, etc. Again, it was a listening to the users and seeing what the problem really was. Like, we thought we had solved it. We had this great user interface, the hardware looked sexy, easy to use, but we didn't dig deep enough and ask enough users. So we didn't talk to enough servers. And here's a bad idea. So this is when you don't use design thinking. Maybe some of you have heard of this, maybe not. This startup came up with this juicer, a $400 Wi-Fi enabled juicer. They got some VC, gave them money, billions of dollars, but what this is that you close it and it squeezes the juice out of the bag. Quickly,
on social media, people said, well, you don't need the machine, you can just squeeze the juice out of the bag. And the company went out of business after spending $10 million. So that's one thing you learn going to VC conferences is all the VCs on the stage, when they're introducing, they're usually asked, tell us about the one company that you missed or that one company that you invested in that completely failed. It's always eye-opening, but this is a prime example of if you had enough design thinking and some focus groups, you should never have been building this Wi-Fi enabled juicer. I mean, you could just look at it now in hindsight, but how did they get to this point? So most apps fail. That's just a fact. One thing to think about when I rolled out to the App Store, the wonderful App Store takes 30% of your revenue. So you've always got to remember, you've got to have a product that's going to escape that velocity. So you're giving 30% of your revenue to Apple in the App Store. If you have a subscription service, it's 30% the first year, 15% the second year. So always think about, is it an app that I want? Again, very crowded. Think of your own phone. Could it be a website? Could it be something else? So important to take that into account. So why is your app not going to fail? Again, building features nobody asked for. I think if you can focus on the minimum viable product where it just has enough features where it's engaging and people want to use it, that's good enough. If I look at when LinkedIn first started, it was an amazing piece of software. It solved a huge problem. I can now connect with all the people that I've worked with across my career, stay in touch with them, and now it's turned into bloated, 30,000 people work there, the features all over the place. It's probably ripe for disruption, because I don't think Gen Z for sure is using it, and you can't find a job with it. So again, features nobody asked for. Enterprise software seems to suffer from that. Assuming you know what users want, again, don't fall in that trap. Skipping the messy research phase. That's, again, design thinking is almost more about research and consumer engagement than really anything else at the end of the day. So I think I've come to the end of my slides here. So we can leave a little time for questions now. So it's a lot, but again, I think at the end of the day, it's coming up with doing all this hard work. It's just the users, the focus groups, the understanding what people want before you go into Figma. Because if you go into Figma and you're designing something, that's fine, prototyping. Once you start putting it into code, that gets expensive to change. Once the code is developed and you've launched it, it gets even more expensive. I know when we push out stuff because we've been rushed by a CEO or we have to get to a conference and we push stuff out, we know it's not good. And we have to then go back in, and it starts to upset the developers because they developed all this code and they pushed it and they have to rip it all out again to do it right again. So it creates a little animosity between the product people and the developers as well. So taking your time to really think about features you're adding is super critical. Can't stress that enough. It's just the more you can think about what the user wants and then develop that specific thing, roll it out, the better. So yeah, so any questions, like any problems that you're having as a group, or I think you're going to be walking through Figma after this. So, no? No, Ravneesh.
So what I
Yeah.
systems, applications, products, and services around that. How does this apply to a real world, less than, building something for a bicycle, a physical product? How does all of this apply to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really follows the same dynamics. If you're coming with a product, in fact, my daughter just did this as her senior project in college. She had to develop a perfume bottle. It's a perfume bottle she developed that has 3 different scents in it. And she started with surveys. She would survey people, just like we're doing here. She engaged with an engineering firm to engineer the bottle to make sure it could work. She then took these engineering diagrams, sent them to a bunch of people, asked about the heaviness of the spray, what mist size it should be, etc. And they kept refining it and kept getting more feedback from users in that persona. They were targeting, females, not men, and in the age group of, I think, 18 to 34. And they just kept following that. Then they designed the bottle. They'd get feedback on the bottle, and they iterated, and followed the same thing. Same with the positioning of the brand. They just, before they obviously didn't have any money, but they iterated this whole thing, following design thinking, surveys, etc., and ultimately came with a product that, that worked. So you're following the same principles, whether it's an e-bike you're developing. It's just listen. There's too many failed businesses out there that don't follow the path of really don't build the ultimate product, build something that's enough to solve a very painful problem, and you will have success. I mean, the road is littered with people that had lots of ideas and just didn't execute on them correctly because they didn't listen to users. So if you took one thing away today, is do your research, do your homework, listen to your customer, your client, and it's hard to go wrong. And if you do go wrong and you fail, and you will, just keep iterating. My company is 2.5 years old now. We've had lots of failure, but you don't give up. You will fall into the valley of despair. I sit on the advisory boards of 2 other startups, and we're a CEO support group, because you will get into a point where you're not getting the traction, you can't get the sales, there's something that will come up, and it's just fighting through that. That's what being a startup is, and you just gotta push through it. It's really, you look at some of these startup people. In fact, I had dinner with one on last Friday. This first startup was when he was 15. He got $20,000 in a VC. Now he's 34, and he just got $20 million for his VC. But he's like, yeah, overnight success. So he's like, he grounded out for 10 years until he stumbled upon that idea. So it's tenacity. Don't give up. I've rarely seen a startup that will keep working hard and trying. As long as they're listening to the customer, they will eventually iterate their way through whatever path that's stopping them. Again, 2.5 years, we barely had an idea, and just everyone laughed at us. Now I have 2 papers published in scientific journals of psychology, and I have an engineering degree. So who's laughing? Like, it's just, you gotta just persevere. It's really hard. As Elon Musk said, we won't get into his political side, but being a startup person, it's like staring in the abyss and chewing on glass. It really is. I mean, there's high highs, there's low lows, but I wouldn't do anything else. So, okay. Well, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, I'm going to hand it over to Anand. He is on Anurag's team for Monet. Very, very skilled with Figma AI and development, so I'll let him give his spiel real quick. I know you guys can't see him, but I have him on the other end, so bear with me as he'll talk to you guys, and then I'll have him screen share and we'll walk through the demo. Okay? All right, Anand, take it away.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are going to have a good session over here. So basically, before I start, I just want to brief you I'm been mostly in the technical background from the past 11 years, and during this time, I have learned a lot in terms of design development and engineering. So basically, I started my career as a developer, and then I felt that somehow I need to have a good hand on design, because many time it happens that if you want to develop something, you need a prototype, you need a design, and the thing that you are trying to express, sometimes the designer is not able to bring that on the table. So in order to be consistent, Figma AI gives you a better feature where you can portray your ideas and develop the solution within minutes. So if I say that how much time would you take to design a mobile app? You may say like 2 to 3 hours. But if I say that I can do this in like 2 minutes, so this happened with the Figma AI. It's not only the Figma AI, there are a couple of tools that are providing such type of solution, but Figma gives you a better approach. It's easy to use for a developer, or like a designer or a non-designer, anyone. It doesn't require a technical skill. It just needs you to have a good prompt over the words, like what actually you want, some clarity about your thoughts, like what is your bootstrap ideas and that you want to bring over the table. So let me quickly show you how it works and what are the advantages that you can get out of this. So here I'm just going to open Figma. You can switch to just you need to search for Figma Make and select the very first stuff, the Figma Make. Here you can write your real ideas and Figma will make it real. So let me just show you like how it works. So if I say like design a mobile app for college students uh, featuring mm, like uh, like any suggestion, like what you want to make using Figma, like which app you want to make. Let me say it's like a chat box. So you can see it quickly figure out like what are the things that you need to present. It will show you like the to list, like okay, it is going to create a mobile optimized layout with navigation and home screen, interactive chatbot interface with messaging history, add college student focused feature like help, assistant, campus info, and all these. Now you can see it not only starts designing, at the same time it starts developing the code. So as you can see, it basically starts writing the code. So now, if you are having some ideas and you are fearing that, okay, I'm not pretty good in Sketch, I need to first write that in a canvas or in a plain paper, then I have to develop the code. So it removes all such dependence and gives you a complete layout where you can project your ideas in real time, and you can publish this in real time also. So meanwhile, it is making developing the feature. I will see you that it not only help you to write the code, even with a simple English or English prompt, you can make all the edits, bring the design, and implement over here. Let me show you in just couple of minutes. So if you are a bit familiar with web development or mobile app development, you will figure out that okay, it has written all the CSS, like the design scripts. It is writing all the app, all the pages, whatever pages it may have. So it's written in Tailwind.css, and it's the coding language is React. Backend over here is Node.js. So it will write the complete architecture. Okay, so we have almost covered 3 points. Just one point is left, and the product will be available in front of you. Okay, so now the application is coming in front of you, and you can notice like in order to achieve this type of solution, you may need at least 2 to 3 hours if you are going via the normal mode. But here it just took like 3 to 4 minutes, and your application is ready. Let me know if you can see my screen. So you can see over here, it is a completely mobile responsive. You can select the mobile design, how it will look like. This is like the desktop version. You can move ahead. Okay. So now you have your mobile application ready where you can it's like a campus buddy where that will help you to assist AI chat, schedule a class, get the resource, getting the study help. You can see your today's lectures, classes, everything. You can chat over here. You can schedule. You can get the resource. You can download them, open them. Okay. So let me see how it will work. Help me to get to study for exams. Okay. So it gives you like real-time response, and based on the data that you are feeding in over here, it will keep on increasing based on your app on your requirement. Now, if I say that if let's make some edits over here. Suppose this is what they provided by default, but if I want to have like, okay, great. Include a section for class notes. So it's not like a one time like you have given the prompt and it keeps on in making the application as you are going with your ideas. It will you have started developing an application. It's completely interactive. You always interact with the application. Let them know that what else you are looking. If something is messy, something is busy, you can reduce that. It will provide you all those features. And if you see the code is being generated over here, and you can plug this with GitHub and different version controls and publish them to your cloud as well. So once I develop this, I will show you like how someone can play, and I will share a link with you. Maybe you can also start fetching this more. Okay, a section for class notes is being added. Okay, I have new navigation notes. So all those notes section has been added. Now based on your classes, you can if you give a command to okay. So currently it's just defined the layout. Now suppose you want to upload your or like create your new class notes. Let me just select a particular application. Suppose I want to act this button as a function that will create a new class notes. I just selected this point and edit, get to this option and right over here, like develop this functionality. So you can see over here, I haven't mentioned that what this button is doing. I just said as develop this functionality. It will read out the plus sign related to class notes, and it will develop the option to generate a class note. Okay. The user has selected button and like add a statement, create a model. When you tap on a button, a form should appear and you can create a note. It understood all those things. Now it's developing. Would you like me to proceed? Yes. So meanwhile, it's developing the functionality. You have all the pages over here. Now, if you want to pitch this, to some investor, like this is your idea that you want to have to use, and you need to bring like in a form of an uh, presentation or a PDF, and for that you may need the images. Let me show you like how I can get that. I just select the option to copy design layers. This design layer is copied. I will go to Figma, open a new design file. Let me show you how you can do that. Just go to figma.com. Yeah, I went over here. In spite of Figma Make, I selected Figma Design. Now this design page has opened, and anyone who is like familiar with any design editor or like the image editor, they can see like what this does this mean. I just switched the design over here. So now you can see that the design is applicable is over here. If I want to make any changes, I just select the application, or I can like make the changes here on the fly, like Alex. I just want to bring this as a, like an image. I can just select the particular application, click on export, select a JPEG file, export. So the now that I am having image that I am having over here is this design that the Figma Make has developed. And now you can have multiple such images that you can bring in your presentation or in your PDF, and you can present in front of any investor or any person. So the functionality that I have asked to develop, they have completely developed that. Let me just check that. It was under the notes. And you see like it developed the application, provided all the features. You can create notes, make the text using the comma separated. So this is how Figma Make not only help you to produce your ideas into an application, provide you an option to bring those designs in front of the investor, in front of a management or any person, and you can get the work that you were supposed to get in like 2 to 3 days. Now you are getting that in just 10 minutes. Now, if I suppose this application is ready enough as per your concern, then let's see like how it will look like in real world. I just click the play button. You can see, you can share this link with anyone. They will see like what you have developed. So this is like a web application performing all the tasks. Here you are not making any edits. It's like a ready to go product. Now, if you want to make it live, like suppose I want to publish this, I just click publish over here. I haven't applied any URL. I haven't purchased any URL. I just need a link that I can produce. I can share to someone as a final product, and he can open that or starts going through the entire application. Like if you have developed this year for college, you want your teachers to check around the complete functionality, just publish this application. Whenever you feel it's the final one or like ready to go, just copy this link, bring this in like a new incognito window, just make sure that no cache or nothing is there. It's like your application that is live. Now it can be accessed from anywhere. You can see like how it will look like in mobile device. Let me just to show you the mobile extension. Mhm. Show you like how it will look like in mobile device. Okay. Now, based on the different devices, how it will look like, you can select, suppose I want to see an iPad Air 4, how this will look like, what is the UI, so that the design that you are creating is not only for desktop, it's completely mobile responsive.
Hey, Anand, for the
Yeah.
students, what site are you using to be able to have the mobile mockup? Or at least the display that shows on iPad or?
Yeah. So basically, there are a lot of plugins, like Mobile Simulator is one of them, that can be used to figure out if the application that they have created is mobile responsive or responsive across different devices or not. So it's the Mobile Simulator application extension that you can download from Chrome browser, and you can see like how it will work. Another thing that I want to just focus over here, that suppose you are good in development, like in coding and other stuff, you can just bring this application, like I am having all the codes over here, just do a download. Your code are being downloaded. I just let me just push the code over here, copy the code, extract that. So these are all the codes. Suppose I want to make it live on my own server. I'm just giving a small demo like how you can make that. Okay, I have copied the project. If you are using some editors like Visual Studio or something, you can open your folder. Uh, so this was the project that I have created. I just select that folder. You have the code in the editor. Open a terminal and just it's create a build. So what it will do, it will start creating a build that will go on the server that you can deploy over there, and it will start. And you can use this from anywhere in the globe. That means you have hosted this application in your own server. So it is creating the build, and how you can connect to any server. It's pretty simple. So there are application where you can, if you are having your own cloud server, you can connect to any one of them. You can log in over there. Okay. So I have the server available. That means that my cloud storage versus my local drive. I will select the application once it's done. And how it is done. Meanwhile, it is creating the build. Let me navigate over here and select the. This is the application that is having the information coming in. So if I talk about the build, it is basically compressing your entire application into a separate two files so that whenever you want to see like how my code would look like, if you go to inspect, you will see over here like the code written over there. So the idea basically was that what I was trying to walk you through is a process through which having ideas in your mind from the bootstrap to bringing them to life where you can present them in front of any global audience is pretty simple these days. Just write what you want to create, download the code, and create a web application of that. So I have like the app is created, I'm just creating a build that I will deploy on the server. Build is created, done. Now, if you see the file over here, earlier I don't had this dist folder. Now this dist folder is having assets and index. Only these two files needs to be uploaded on the server. So if I create a new directory over here, and let me show you. Just so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just open this dist folder, bring this to and push it over here. Now in my own cloud storage, I'm having the application available that I can see. Okay, how I will go to there. Let me just show you how it will look like. I have the domain. So okay, this is my host name. I'm just bringing this host name. Just this. That's why I was getting the error. And the domain was not defined. Okay, I think there's some SSL issue. So ultimately what I was trying to achieve over here, that I have created an application that I'm going to publish on my cloud server, having all these functionality working as a prototype that I have projected over here. So if you have any question, I'm ready to answer related to this.
So, guys, I know it's a lot of information, but regarding like your guys' startups, and how you could leverage this tool to create your guys' apps or websites, do you have any questions like for your specific applications that you want to ask Anand?
Hello? Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yes.
Hi, so I'm not sure if you went over this, but so I've made the app, but how do we implement like live things going on inside of it?
So basically, I missed you in mid. So basically, what you are trying to say that you have that using this tool, you have made an app, and now you want to bring that app into life, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So the option over here is that you have the source code, you have the code available. Now, if you want to publish this to a mobile application like Android or iOS, there are two different ways. Either you can push it to Play Store or uh, the App Store. There is another option that you can create an hybrid app that will act on both the environment. So if I talk about the app development, there are multiple ways developing them independently based on the devices that you are targeting on, or creating a native app that will run on both the devices. That comes under the hybrid app. These days, Electron and there are other applications that help you to define to design all these things in a single language. Once I have developed this, I have the code, I will bring those codes into those editors. If I say Visual Studio, I will bring those codes over there, create a build, push this build into the server just like as I was doing, and then create a link. Those links will basically deploy into the App Store or Play Store for submission. Once they approve, the app will be available over there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Like,
Other question?
any
Yeah, we have another question. One moment. Hi, can you hear me?
yes.
So for the app that me and my team are particularly trying to make, it requires data, like let's say from vendors or places where you can find food and drink. But how have we been able to draw that data and implement it into the app?
Okay. So basically, so far I haven't connected any backend server over here. What I have did, I have designed the file, created the development. There was no, these were all static data. I haven't pushed the data to the server. What I can do, I can create a database for that. So if you, let me show you an application. Mm, See over here, like this application, I want to bring in, suppose, see if I say it like, I need to load my own data set. So develop a portal where I can upload via CSV. So basically, it provides you an option to upload directly via CSV, or if you are having your own database and you want to connect, it provides you an option to connect to the database also, like NoSQL or MySQL databases, and it will work based on the inputs that it will receive from the database. So in your database, you may have many tables, many entities that will help you to get these solutions. Let me show you like one of the application that I have developed for my own organization for having the attendance punch in and punch out. Mm, This is still ongoing that I am developing for my organization. Is for their leave applications. So for the enterprise level, we are using this, and let me show you. Yeah. So over here, it is connected to a database. I'm just logging in as an admin. So what it is doing over here, it is just checking with the information, checking the information from the database, and returning all the information. Let's see if I open. Yeah, you can see I have all the information that how many employees are there, how which one has taken leaves on which day, what type of leaves they have taken, what is their attendance profile, how many were present in the month of Jan, like what was their duration, working logs, when they have punch in, when they have punch out. These are all the real data. Oh, this just now I have got someone like info to have a short leave approval. So these are all the employee details, employee ID mapping. Now here you can see that it is connecting to a database so that you have all the database ID, display ID, email, the department, everything stored. So there are options. If I have give it a command that I need to connect this to a database, it will connect me to the database. Now I have provided you an option to upload a data via CSV. It is telling that they have developed the application. I can download the template. Uh, so now it has developed. How do I know that where I need to upload? So I will just write the command like I am unable to find location to upload. It will walk me through the process. So it's like your complete assistance, not only for setting up the data, getting retrieving the data. Another thing, it will also act as like with the security measures. So the type of security measures that you provide, suppose you say that I want a login portal with like enterprise 3 level 3 grade. That means it should be hash encrypted. The file that I will upload will be stored in my own S3 bucket or a cloud front or a Cloudflare or anywhere like your repository. So this is how it works. If you see like if you scroll down to notes tab, yeah, you can download this template. Open this template, like data should be in this format. For the notes, you can bring this document, upload over here, and it will start populating the data in the application. So there's one ways, if someone is not pretty good in like coding, he can upload via CSV, like having the data in the CSV format or Excel format. And if it is good in coding, they can connect it to the database.
Okay,
So
thank
am I?
you. We have time for one more question. If anybody has any final questions. Anybody? No? No? Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Anand. Greatly appreciate it. And I guess we'll go ahead and move on to the next section. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you all.